Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the very first episode of a new podcast that I'm sure is going to change some people's worlds. That's right. That's a bold statement, isn't it?
It is. This is actually, I'm pretty sure, the first podcast of its kind.
That's right. That's right. Welcome to Matt Talk. It is a podcast all about everyone's favorite courtroom drama, Matlock. And if it's not everyone's favorite, damn it, it should be. I am John Orlando. I am the creator of a podcast called the PVD Cast.
My name is Jason. I am co-creator of the Three Geeks podcast. Something, the Matlock thing started kind of as an inside thing between me and John. We'd always bring it up on the podcast just because the other guys didn't really know what we were talking about. And yeah, we're here now.
That's right. That's right. So maybe can we tell the folks that are tuning in a little bit about why we love Matlock? Because look, people are looking at our faces, those that are watching the video, and they're going, these two guys were not born probably when Matlock was on.
I was 4.
I was 10. So, I mean, but you know, tell Jason, I'll let you go first. How did you find Matlock, and why is it so near and dear to your heart?
I spent a lot of time at my grandparents' house. I know this is probably a stereotypical, story starting out and explaining Matlock, but my grandma would watch it all the time. But what really got me into it was Matlock and Happy Days that were on while I was homesick from school. So I'd watch Matlock, and then I'd watch Happy Days later in the day. And I really get into it. And when there was a 2-parter, of course I was going to be sick the next day too, because I needed to know if he solved the case. Because I think there's one episode where Matlock actually loses. And because of that one episode that I saw, I was always on the edge of my seat. Like, is he going to lose again this time? So it's a great show to watch when you were homesick from school in the 90s.
So mine is a little bit of a different story as to my love of Matlock. So I'm based here. We're both based in Columbus, Ohio. And my brother lives way out in the eastern part of the state, a little bit south of Youngstown, but out in the country. And so I remember Matlock as a kid, but I didn't really watch it, maybe an episode here or there. But it was about 3 or 4 years ago that I went back to visit my brother and family back in eastern Ohio. And I think it was around Christmas time. And my brother had dropped cable. He was tired of Comcast and dropped it, so they went back to the old antenna. And so MeTV was on. And so I discovered Matlock, or rediscovered, I guess. I don't know. And I just started watching it. And my sister-in-law would give me so much crap about it. She was like, why are you watching this? You are not 70 years old. Again, with the negative stereotypes. We're going to break those. And I don't know, there was something whimsical about it. Like, there's just a tone and a feeling that you get when, or at least for me, when I watched it, of, wow, this is simpler times, and this is just kind of, happy-go-lucky, whimsical, even though murders are happening all around Matlock, still just had this kind of, I don't know, this personality to it that I just was like, wow. And so, fast forward to a few years ago in 2018, I too dropped cable. I was like, I'm tired of paying, and so I have MeTV, and so there you go. I can watch all the Matlock I want Monday through Friday at 10 a.m.
I think that's when it was on in the 90s, too. It was 10 a.m. on TNT or TBS, and then Perry Mason was on right after. I never watched Perry Mason. I was like, Matlock's the only cop detective show for me. And then, now I'm older, I've watched Perry Mason. But, yeah, I was totally Team Matlock.
Side note, aren't they bringing back Perry Mason on HBO?
They are. And the guy from The Americans is playing Perry Mason.
Okay. The Matthew Reese?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, before we start explaining a little bit about this podcast, I do have to give some thanks to some people that helped us out. Joseph Morris and Stephen Hines wrote and created or composed, whatever verb you want to use, the heavy metal version of the Matlock theme that you heard at the beginning of this episode. Joseph and Stephen, thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it so much. I also would like to thank Tony Goins, who designed the logo for Matt Talk. And even though I was a little bit of a diva and I kept asking him to change things around, I really appreciate it, Tony. Thank you very, very much. All three of you. You helped to put the icing on the cake, so to speak, I guess would be the best way to say it. All right. So we'll explain the podcast here. We're going to break it down into 3 segments, and they are going to be somewhat court-themed. We will start with opening statements, where we'll give just a little bit of the trivia, I guess you could say, the statistics, whatever you want to call it, for the episode. Then we'll do what I like to call testify, where we'll give a summary of the episode, we'll critique it, give our overall opinion on it, and then we'll close up with the appropriately named closing statements, where we'll rate this episode based on 1 to 5 gavels. 5 gavels, of course, being the best. And so that's what we're going to try to do. So are you ready, Jason?
I'm ready.
I'm ready. All right, here we go. I'm going to start with the opening statements. The name of the episode is Diary of a Perfect Murder. Now, it was the pilot episode for Matlock. It actually was a 2-hour NBC movie of the week that later, when it was repeated, was cut into 2 one-hour shows. It aired on March 3rd, 1986, and was added to the NBC lineup that fall in September of 1986. As we will probably discuss many, many times on this podcast, the triad of creativeness were the producers and writers, Joel Steiger, Dean Hargrove, and Fred Silverman, all 3. Just to give a little bit of background, Joel Steiger had been a producer on Perry Mason, Diagnosis Murder, Jake and the Fat Man, which has to be one of the worst TV shows ever. Sorry, it's just my opinion.
That was my nickname as a kid. My grandfather would call me Jake, and he was the Fat Man. I've never seen an episode of that show.
I've seen a couple episodes. It's not very good. Joel Steiger was also the writer on the Father Dowling Mysteries, if you remember that show. Dean Hargrove, he pretty much was the producer on many of the other same shows as Joel Steiger. He was also a writer for Columbo and The Man from U.N.C.L.E. And then Fred Silverman was one of the few people, actually, that I found in my research, one of the few people that actually was a producer on all 3 major networks. Like, that didn't happen a lot back in the day. He's done things such as Scooby-Doo, Charlie's Angels, All in the Family, Matlock, a long list of things from Fred Silverman, who sadly passed away in January. Did you know that, Jason?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, the 30th, January 30th, 2020, he passed away.
2020 has been rough.
Preach. All right. I have a spoiler. I'm going to hold on to that till the end here. I guess there's only really a few notable guest stars, Jason. One of which is Lori Lethin, and you and I have had a couple text messages back and forth about her. You want to kind of give your 2 cents worth on Lori Lethin?
I thought she was a very attractive young lady, and I reached out to her on Facebook. We're working on getting her on this podcast, but I really liked her as Matlock's daughter, and I haven't watched Matlock in a while. This is fun to get back into it, and I was really disappointed to see that she's only in this one episode.
Yeah, it was really weird because she plays Charlene Matlock, and then Linda Pearl would take over the role when the show got picked up for a full season, and Linda Pearl. Apparently, I didn't dive into this, but apparently there are 2 different stories. Linda Pearl claims she was wrongfully fired. The production team claimed that she quit. There's some controversy about it. And then we wouldn't get a Matlock daughter until later on, like season 5 or 6, when Bryn Thayer would play Leanne, which I did not know this. Apparently it's the same character, but I always thought like he just had 2 daughters.
Yeah, I did too.
But supposedly Leanne is there. He was only supposed to have 1 daughter. Leanne was the new name they gave her. I remember Lori Lethin from her starring role on a made-for-TV movie that ABC put out way back in the early 80s called The Day After. Have you seen this film?
I've not.
Are you familiar with it?
I kind of, yeah.
Yeah. She plays Denise, she's, I believe, if memory serves me correct, because it's been a while since I've seen it, she plays the girlfriend or wife to Steve Guttenberg's character. Yes, I said Steve Guttenberg.
It's another 80s treasure.
Yes, he is. Along with Jason Robards is in the movie as well. The movie, by the way, for those that are curious and don't want to look it up, it was a made-for-TV movie from ABC that was about what happens when the Russians would fire the nukes and, what happened in this small town in Kansas. I remember it got so much buzz. Like, I remember as a little kid hearing all about it because it was like the most shocking, controversial film that got put out. When I watched this as an adult, I was like, this really isn't that. It's kind of cheesy, and it's really not that controversial. So, but okay, we'll talk about a couple other guest stars, and I'm gonna ask Jason, do you know the work of one Mr. Al Ruscio, who plays Marzell, the mob guy in this episode? Not. Apparently, he was in Showgirls.
Nice.
He was also in Godfather 3, and also The Phantom.
I've seen all 3 of those movies.
I've seen 2 of the 3. So yeah. So I mean, he kind of looked familiar. Like when I saw him on screen, I'm like, that dude's been in a bunch of stuff, and he's been in a ton of other things. But I was like, yeah. And my lid was blown when the first thing was Showgirls. I'm like, what?
That's his claim to fame.
Hey, man. Okay, my last notable guest star was Catherine Cannon, who played Linda Coolidge, who sadly wasn't in the episode very much. But she played multiple different characters on Murder, She Wrote.
Nice.
By the way, and we're probably going to get into this somewhere in this podcast because it happens with Matlock. I absolutely despise when you have a actor, and they're playing one role, and then like a few episodes come back and they're a totally different person. I hate that. I hate it.
Law and Order does that, but they usually put like seasons, like tons of seasons in between actors coming back, so you don't really remember that they were on the show. But I
hate it. Like, so Catherine Cannon, 4 different characters in Cabot Cove. Come on. Seriously. Get somebody else. All right, last thing here. Spoiler for anybody that's going to watch the episode and watch along here, sort of. I'm just going to tell you a spoiler right here because the end of the episode is very familiar to Mr. Hargrove because he basically just took an idea that he used on Columbo and brought it over and kind of switched a few things around. So I'm just going to throw it out there. All right, and I'm sure we'll talk about the ending. So that's just out there. So that wraps up opening statements. And Jason, are you ready to testify? Ready. All right. So what'd you think of the episode? Let's start picking it apart.
Okay, so for the first, Matlock shows up minute 13. I did make that a note. But up to that 13 minutes, I've seen a lot of Matlock. So I'm talking about this episode in particular, not the series as a whole. But the acting in the first 13 minutes of this show was atrocious. It was absolutely atrocious. It gets better because Tyler, that character is really, really well done. His daughter is really, really well done. It's just the guy that Steve Emerson's, the character Steve Emerson it was too much for me.
When he patted the assistant on the head, I'm like, what a dick. Like, why? Seriously, man. Like, don't pat a young lady on the head. Yeah, I wrote that down too. Steve Inwood is the actor playing Steve Emerson, and he was just absolutely chewing up all kinds of scenery. He was really, really bad.
Yeah. Sorry. Tyler, I like how Matlock approaches Tyler about being, coming and helping him do this case. He's like, I'm out of the game, man. I'm out of the game. And Matlock's like, take a look at this check. He's like, no, I'm out of the game. Matlock's like, just unfold the check. And he's like, no, man, I'm done. I don't want to do it anymore. And he opens up the check and he goes, let's go.
Yeah. Tyler Hudson is an awesome character because just he's got this like kind of hint of like he's a little bit of a scumbag, but not really. You know what I mean? Throughout the show, he's always like wheeling and dealing with different commodities and scams and whatnot. But he's a darn good PI. I feel like Tyler Hudson is by far, I'm on team Tyler Hudson than Conrad McMasters, because I think Tyler gets stuff done and he's willing to throw down if necessary. You don't mess with him. You don't mess with him at all.
No, Conrad's kind of like the voice guy from the Police Academy movies.
Michael Winslow?
Yeah.
Really?
He's more bumbling than he is like a guy. He's more like the Barney Fife of the show.
Okay, I'll give you that. I like that.
But I like the scene where we first see Matlock in a courtroom. You know, he goes up to the jury box and he's like, I'm going to count to 10, and that person is going to walk through the door. Like, why don't more lawyers do that? That's a great move.
Dude, I wrote that down as like, what the hell are you doing? How is that a defense in a court of law? I don't have a law degree, but how can you? He's gonna walk through the door. Oh, he didn't. You anticipated that he was. Ha. Therefore, so did my client.
I was looking at that door as hard as you were. Like, how do you know how hard he was looking at the door? Like, but I understand the intention behind the scene, and I thought it was pretty boss. The thing I like about Matlock, the character, is he doesn't take any prisoners in the courtroom or when he's talking to his client. Like, he will let the client know, like, I'm your boss. You're going to do what I tell you to do. And if you don't, then I'm going to walk. But when he's with his daughter or Tyler, you know, he jokes around. He's very caring. He's very loving. I like that aspect of the character.
Yeah, and I think that's a theme that you're going to see throughout many, many, many episodes and throughout many, many seasons of the show, is that, you know, definitely Matlock has that, you know, either you're going to follow my rules or I'm going to leave. Much like I wrote down the two other themes that you will see in multiple episodes. It seems that Ben shines his shoes a lot. So be prepared for that. And sorry, ladies, shoulder pads everywhere in the 80s fashions. That's two things that we have to look forward to.
What did you think of the scene where they're walking through the courtroom and Matlock's daughter is like turning and flirt talking to like every guy that passes?
I wrote that down. Like, she's the man chasing young attorney. Like, she just finds every guy, like including Emerson later on. She's
why Emerson?
I know. I'll tell you what I liked. I really liked the old Rockford Files type of show opening with like the different like kind of slideshow, I guess is the best way to describe it. I really dug that. I thought that was really cool. And I also appreciated the fact that I loved the old school NBC in stereo graphic that came up at the bottom of the screen. I thought that was pretty killer.
I thought it was pretty cool. I'd never seen that opening to Matlock before, because in syndication, it's all edited to pretty much the same opening sequence.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I think one thing that we both complained about with this episode, and it was a huge buzzkill for me, it seemed, number one, to have a darker tone.
Mm-hmm.
It really didn't seem to be as light. And number two, my God, was the pacing methodical.
Yes.
Unnecessarily.
There were parts where it seemed like it was going really fast, and then there was parts where a minute would pass, but it would feel like 5 or 6 that you've just been sitting there watching the episode, because I would hit it to see how much longer I had, because I go to bed early. And I'd be like, wow, that was only a minute since I checked the last time. No, it was definitely 45 minutes that they stretched out.
Yeah, I did. Like you, I watched it, and again, for everybody that's listening or watching, we watched it on DVD because it is not streaming anywhere, and that's a crime.
It is a crime. I'm hoping it'll be on the new NBC streaming service that's launching.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. The Peacock Network, or is that what? Yeah, that's what it's called. Yeah, because I mean, it's on Amazon, but you have to pay for that.
$2 an episode.
Right.
Outrageous.
Outrageous indeed, especially when you can buy season 1 for $7.
Yep, Amazon.
Yeah, I felt like when I'm watching it, I kept doing the same as you, Jason. I'm like, oh my God, this is like, and the timer was 1 hour and 40 minutes, but it seemed like all day I watched it. It just went on and on and on, and that really, really turned me off to the episode, to be quite honest. It was like, this is very tedious.
Yeah, there's definitely highlights. Like I said, I like that courtroom when he did the count to 10, as cheesy as it was when you really think about it. And I like the show. I like all the scenes with Matlock and Tyler and Luann. It's just all the other stuff I didn't really care so much about.
Well, I would like to just highlight a couple other things that I dug. I want more Hazel, who was the secretary, because when she whipped out with, "Why don't you get a new suit?" I lost it. I thought that was hilarious. I could not. Like, you had to know that maybe he was going to – I'd like to think that maybe they weren't going to constantly go with the same suit every episode. But it just – you know what I mean? Like, some backstory behind, well, originally we weren't going to do that. But when she whipped out with that line, and it was ad-lib, that's what I'm hoping. It was probably written exactly that same way, and that my idea is completely bunk. But I liked – Hazel giving him grief about shining his shoes. I'm like, man, we need more Hazel.
Yeah, no, I thought that was great. And the joke works more in retrospect, knowing that he wears a suit through the whole series, because we've only been with the character for 30 to 45 minutes at that point, so we don't know that that's his only suit. But you and I take in baggage when we watch these shows, so we know what the future holds. That suit's almost as iconic as Fonzie's leather jacket.
Almost, not quite, almost. I don't know about you, Jason, but I would love to hang out at that nightclub, Limelight, as it was called,
where all the yuppies go.
I'm telling you, there was tons of cocaine coming in and out of that joint. There were Pablo Escobar levels of cocaine in the back room of that nightclub.
I'm glad we moved on from that word yuppie. I was watching Matlock, and I'm like, I don't miss that word being used.
Yeah, same here. I love the line where they were all in the men's room, including Charlene, and the guy comes in and goes, "It's all right, she's a lawyer." I'm like,
it's all right, I'm a lawyer. She's leaving.
Yeah, she does it again. Yeah. May I say this? The character of Lockwood, he looked like a Dollar Tree G. Gordon Liddy. I mean, he just did, didn't he?
Yes.
Why are you not breaking into Watergate, sir? So let's see. What other real quick things? So this is one thing I looked, because I was looking up, again, some of the research for some of the character actors. Lieutenant Daniels, who is in the episode. And sadly, it's not Lieutenant Daniels from The Wire. Man, that would have been sweet, though. But
a nice crossover. Find out they're in the same universe. Then you can spread the love of Matlock. Matlock is a Wire prequel, everybody. Mind's blown all over the internet.
Oh, I would love to see an Omar Matlock like confrontation. Love that in the courtroom. That would be awesome. Oh man. Woo! I'm gonna start writing that. Fan fiction. Matlock meets The Wire.
Nice. I still want to write my fan fiction of Matlock meeting Jessica Fletcher and Perry Mason.
Awesome. By current theory, does that mean that Jessica Fletcher kills both of them?
No.
Oh, okay.
He's on trial. Matlock's her lawyer.
Okay. She's on trial. Oh, for all the various murders she's committed over the years.
And Matlock can't save her on his own. He must call in Perry Mason.
Oh, man. It's like a dream team. So this little tidbit was thrown in when I was looking up Lieutenant Daniels. So remember at the beginning, Lieutenant Daniels finds a gun in Emerson's car. Mm-hmm. So a little side note, that would be inadmissible in court. because he didn't have a warrant to search the car. The crime scene, if it was a crime scene, then it would be fine to search the car, but it wasn't part of the crime scene. It was his own private car. No search warrant, no gun, inadmissible in court. So there you go. A little bit of law for you. Because let's be honest too, I don't think the fake diary, you can do that. I don't think you can just lie to somebody and go, hey, Jason, on this piece of paper, you said that I think that that's clearly Hollywood BS. Any other notes for our section here on the episode?
No, not really.
Okay. All right. One final one. I did not like the weather guy.
Oh, no, that was weird. That whole segment could have been taken out.
Yeah, because it was just the cliche, wacky, weird weather guy, but yet he's like the gossip of the station. I didn't dig it. I was like, this is dumb.
Yeah, one of the things I always liked about Matlock, to go back to the beginning, is the fact that he tries to solve his own cases. Like, he's more than a lawyer. You're getting a detective as well.
Yeah. And yeah, I totally agree. Like, especially like that's probably driven home the most when they're in the editing bay and they're rewatching the tape again and again and again to find out who committed the murder, who killed Miss Coolidge. And yeah, the same thing. Like, he won't give up. He's continuing. And this is where, spoiler, this is where he finds out that the name badge, the name tag being on the killer, Lockwood, and then being off was what tipped him. And in that episode of Columbo that Hargrove wrote, it was a carnation in the lapel. So nice. There you go. And as we learned from former President William McKinley, always have your carnation in your lapel, because when you don't, bad things happen.
Yep. And your name tag.
Oh, and your name tag. All right, then it's time to go to closing statements. Jason, go ahead. What do you think? What was your overall opinion on the episode? How many gavels would you give, et cetera, et cetera?
Overall, it was fun to get back into this world, because I haven't watched Matlock in probably a few years. Not from lack of interest, so much content coming out. But the episode was fine. Like I said, there's parts that really, really drag. There's some fun parts. The acting was not so great, but I know through Matlock it does get better. So I mean, I'd give this episode probably a 2.5 out of 5 gavels.
Wow, we think alike. I gave it 2 gavels for the same reason. I felt, and as we talked about, just the pacing was just so slow. You said there were times you thought it went fast. I never thought that. I thought it was just I don't even know the analogy to use, like a walk in the park on a Sunday afternoon. You're just taking your leisurely old time to tell the story. And, you know, as you had said, and you even texted it to me, you know, this could have been a 45-minute episode. They stretched a lot, and I agree. That's why I gave it 2 gavels out of 5. So not the best episode, but it was good enough to get the green light from NBC.
Yeah, what's weird is this is the first episode, but whenever any of these kinds of shows, whether it be Perry Mason, whether it be Matlock, whether it be Psych, to get some newer audience, whenever they reach the point where they start making the feature films or the 2-hour shows, they always feel like a stretched out 45 episode. And that's what this felt like, but it was still Matlock. I mean, it got 2 stars specifically because of the 3 leads of the show.
Well, I think it's about this time now we need to start wrapping things up. So, Jason, do you want to plug some things that you got going on, man?
Check out the 3 Geeks podcast. We record Sundays. We release the video Sunday evenings and the audio on Tuesdays. John is more or less a regular on the show. Max and I, my partner, it's all of our years of trying to, get John involved. We finally have him coming on every week. So, yay for coronavirus.
There is more than 3 geeks, by the way, people, if you tune in. I mean, it ranges anywhere from 4 to 6 geeks, but, what are you going to do?
We've had 10 geeks on it once. It was too much, I think. And then we got a bunch of other stuff in our iTunes feed, so check that out as well.
All right, where can folks find the Three Geeks podcast? The website, social medias, and stuff like that?
3geeks.ninja, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, but it's on my personal, so 3geeksj. And yeah, I mean, we're on YouTube too, Three Geeks Podcast. Just look us up. We're everywhere.
There you go. I shall plug my own podcast, the PVD Cast, which you can find at pvdcast.com or through any of the major podcasting platforms out there, whether you're talking about like Spotify, Deezer, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Pod Paradise, et cetera, et cetera. However, I am also syndicated through Redline Radio, which is out of Cleveland, Ohio. Every Monday night at 9:30, you can listen to the live broadcast of the PVD Cast and interact with me, as I'm always there during those live broadcasts to kind of chat a little bit online. This week's episode is one featuring comic book artist Daryl Banks, who spent a very long time on Green Lantern and, as a matter of fact, co-created Kyle Rayner, one of the later Green Lantern, and we talk about that, as well as his career in comics, a couple of other projects. And he has an appearance, which, let's be honest, Jason, we haven't been to a Comic-Con since last fall, right?
Yeah, it's sad.
It is. But Daryl's going to be doing an appearance here in Columbus, Ohio. So we talk a little bit about that as well. So feel free to go to pvdcast.com or look up any of those other outlets and give it a listen. So
we want to talk to you guys about Matlock too. So please send in messages. We're going to get an email created and all that fun stuff. But send them in. We'll read them on the air. We'll discuss the topics. If you liked this episode and you think that we were wrong, tell us why. If you absolutely did not like this episode, again, tell us why. We'd love to hear from everybody.
And for the time being right now, just keep right here, watching on the Facebook page, Matt Talk Podcast. That's the where you'll find it. And, we've had some people already reach out and talk to us about some different things. And look, let's be honest, we're trying this. We don't know, how much fandom's going to be out there, how much traction this will get. So, as Jason said, if you interact with us, then we can really get a good handle on, should we put out more episodes? Should we not put out more episodes? Should we do some live things that we thought about doing? It all depends on you. So again, your interaction is incredibly important to us.
But what's a lot of fun is we haven't even released this episode yet, and we're already hearing from you guys. So
right. We are recording this before it goes out here, and yeah, we're already hearing from people. That's awesome, man. So. Well, Jason, with that, we'll be back with another episode here in a couple of weeks. So until then, man, stay safe, man.
Have a great night, guys.
All right. With that, nothing further.